Fireside Tales. Hello. I'm Merlin. Mililli. Welcome to my fireside, where I tell weird tales within tales. And I drink coffee. I drink coffee from my skull mug, because I'm a deadhead. And every week here at Fireside Tales, I tell the story of the Grateful Dead. As I heard it, from a deadhead, by a fire. I also discuss with you every week a meditative place called the Akashic Records, or the Akasha, where I have a book. And what we've been discussing here at Fireside Tales is essentially what's in my book. The Akashic Records is an ancient library. It's a meditative library, a metaphysical library that doesn't actually exist on our plane of existence. And in it, each soul has a book. And it keeps track, the book does, of where your soul has been. And when it has been. And who. So, my book is really big and really old and really dusty. And it's strangely so. I don't look at other people's books in the Akasha, but you can compare on the shelves mine to most of them are like average size books, and mine's like freakishly large. So in that my book is freakishly large, it seems as if I have been reincarnated, not just once, but many times. We've laid out, I believe it's 23 different lifetimes. In our last season, I talked about each life in my book per episode. And this season, I've gone all the way back to the very beginning of my book to my first life, and now I'm going slowly through my first life. Something that we used to live by in ancient times in my very first life, and something I have used, and it's been a thread, a recurring thing in each life. Fire has been one of those things. Each week here at Fireside Tales, I've been discussing fire safety because it's very important to make sure that your fire is safe. I live in California, and it's still fire season, so it's important to make sure your fire's safe. Make sure you have tools and gloves to touch things with. And you want to have water. I have water in my kettle up on top of the fire. I have water in my cauldron here for my smudge stick. And I have water around the corner in my sink in my sprayer, which can reach. So if you have a fire outside, you want to make sure that you have dug a pit and lined it with stones so that nothing catches. And you want to be aware of overhanging branches. You don't want any overhanging branches or the potential of overhanging branches. So look to the trees, see how they're going to grow before you choose your spot. Make sure there's just no trees around where you're choosing. And then you want to have a bucket of water, but also a bucket of sand or dirt and a shovel for an outdoor fire. Unless you have your outdoor fire really close to your house and you have a hose there, then you don't really need a bucket of water if you have a hose. But you need a water source for certain. Though you don't really need water to put out a fire. You can put out a fire with dirt and a shovel. It's been done. So, smudging is another one of my threads. And this is... I just got sage in my coffee. This is dried sage. When you bundle it like this, it's called a smudge stick. And so what I'm doing now is called smudging. Well, what I'm going to do in a second. So first you want to light your smudge stick carefully, not lighting anything else on fire but the smudge stick. It's like a really big incense. So it cleanses your aura, the burning sage, the sage smoke. It's very cleansing. And you can feel the difference if you just do it once. It makes a huge difference. So that's smudging. Then I've also been discussing another thread, which is grounding. So I'm going to take my shoes off and ground for you now. Grounding is when you breathe out. Now what we did with the smudge stick was we were getting rid of negative energies that other people might attach to your aura, or that you might just pick up around, or you might develop from within. The negativity from within is what grounding gets rid of. The negativity from without is what the sage gets rid of. So we're going to ground and get rid of all of our negativity. We're going to breathe it all out. And then we're going to breathe in positive energy. Think positive thoughts, and then think an uber positive thought. Until you breathe out positive energy. I do grounding before I do any kind of divination, like card reading, or I read runes, or you could also you should also ground and smudge before meditating, and it's all to get the most positive outcome from the reading as you can possibly get, to come at the reading or meditation and in a positive frame of mind. So I've had this problem before. I'm getting a tissue. My nose. It's my allergy season. I think some of my logs have been moldy. I'm allergic to mold, so I'm sitting here burning moldy wood, and it makes my nose run. So if I get a tissue, it doesn't seem to run. So let's hope that's over. Sorry, I had to stand away from the fire for a moment. It's getting really hot. Though I did need the fire, we just got some snow here in Mount Shasta. So it wasn't a superfluous fire this week. But so fire, smudging, grounding, they're all threads that connect each of my lifetimes in my book. And meditating, stargazing, being a medium and a psychic are all also threads. So we'll come back to that. And now I'm going to tell you the story of the Grateful Dead, as I heard it from a deadhead by a fire, as it should be told. Just a minute. Okay. Once, long, long ago, there was a traveler. And she traveled by foot, because it was that long ago. One day, she's walking along, and she notices a bustle, crowd of people arguing in a village. She gets a little closer to see what's actually going on and why these people are arguing. And she finds that they're all arguing, quite literally, over a dead body. So they're arguing over the dead man's debts and who's going to pay them and who's going to bury him and who's going to pay for that. And the traveler just thinks this whole scene is atrocious. And so she pays the dead man's debts. And she pays for a proper burial. And she prays over his grave. And she travels on. Decades later, she happens upon a life or death situation. And out of nowhere comes this stranger who just saves her life. She says, "Thank you. Who are you? Why did you just save my life?" And the stranger simply says, I am the Grateful Dead. Story. Oh, dear, I just ripped my thing. It's a story about reincarnation. I'll come back and probably rip more things. Definitely not the first time I ripped something. Well, that stinks. But the story of the Grateful Dead is a story about reincarnation. It's an old Buddhist story. And the Grateful Dead did get their name from the old Buddhist story, but they got their name from mention of the Buddhist stories in a Funk and Wagnall's dictionary. Buddhists believe in reincarnation. So, considering it's a Buddhist story, I would say it's about reincarnation. Some people have said, oh, it's a corpse at the end that saves her life, or it's a zombie. Corpses do not save lives. Zombies do not save lives. It's not a thing for either one of them. It really isn't. So I said we'd come back to my medium psychic thread. And due to my being a medium and a psychic, I am in almost constant contact with the spirit realm. And the spirits think that reincarnation happens when a person is murdered. And I haven't been able to disprove this theory, and I don't really think it's a theory anymore. And that means that I have been murdered a lot. So, in my book, there's also a watermark. Everything before the watermark is light and sandy and dry. And everything after the watermark is dark and muddy and wet. My lives in my book that appeared before the watermark seem to be lives that last for thousands of years. Now that seems strange on its face and weird, and people generally don't believe most of this, so they don't believe that either. But the watermark seems to mark the Great Flood. And it also, the years and the lives in which I lived for thousands of years coincide and line up with the King's List. I don't know if you've seen this. It's carved into stones in a couple different languages. I think Darius was the one who had it carved. And he was a king on the list. And the early kings all seem to, on the list, live for thousands of years. And then after a certain point, they stop living for thousands of years. So that's strange. but it seems to be the case for my first life. So we've been discussing all season the life of a woman named Little Flower. She lived in ancient Peru in the Machu Picchu area. And she not only lived for thousands of years, she lived roughly 10,000 years ago. So things are not always what history says. And we've been discussing her story versus his story on the past couple of episodes. And we have found her story, or Little Flower's story, to say that she was an ancient Mayan. Today, we are going to discuss her parents. Her father, Eagle the Lucky, and her mother, Singing. I know she was a Mayan because her parents were Mayans. Her father mined some of the world's first turquoise, and Little Flower and her mom, Singing, carved the ancient Mayan calendars out of the turquoise. Now, his story says that Incans lived in Machu Picchu, but they also say that Incans lived in Machu Picchu maybe early AD, the first couple centuries AD. I'm talking 10,000 years ago, about 8,000 BC. Way before fireplaces and houses and schools and restaurants. Way before all of these things. I can still read the ancient Mayan calendars. I'm not sure how, but I can. I still communicate with Eagle the Lucky occasionally. My mother Singing, not so much. Being a psychic medium has its perks. Both of my parents may have also been mediums and or psychics. They were both healers of our tribe. My father, Eagle the Lucky, was our chief. This was 10,000 years ago, like I said, so I only remember our tribe having about 50 people in it. But remembering in my book is kind of different than remembering regular. I go to my book meditatively. I touch a certain section. In this case, I go all the way to the front. Touch the life of Little Flower area, and I have a memory. So that's what I mean by remembering. And I only remember our tribe to have about 50 people in it. I don't know why Bear is making noises at Squeaky, but pardon him. Squeaky can sit there without you making noises at him. Shush. He really doesn't think so. So, Bear. I'm not sure there were very many other people in the world at that time. I mean, we may have been the only 50 people in the whole world. I really don't know. So, my mom being a healer and helping with all the tribal births, when it came time for me to be born onto her an eagle, my mom wanted to have me in a field of flowers. And thusly, I was named Little Flower. Music is another thread of mine. It's been a part of each and every one of my lives, barring none. And they may not have had instruments in Little Flower's life, which they didn't have instruments. But my mom was always singing, thus her name, Singing. Maybe she got that after she was born, the name Singing, but she was always singing. And speaking of singing, I think it's about time for me to sing my song Before for you. I wrote it. It's my only song about reincarnation. So here we go. Reincarnation, 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 reincarnation. I'm back, I'm back, I'm back. Somebody stabbed me in the back, and now I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. But I lack memory of who I was. I must looking back at me, but I lack memory of who I was. Before. I opened the door to find it there. No more, no more, no more. Before, before, before. Ooh, it's very hot by the fire. Sweating bullets. Ruining my hairdo. Hopefully not. Oh, so before I was singing David Crosby's Deja Vu every week. And it was the closest thing I could find to a song about reincarnation until I wrote mine. And then when I wrote mine, I started singing it. So that worked out. So it's not on an album yet. I just put out my 19th album. I think that's the third one this year. Maybe the second. Nonetheless, I think it's the second this year. So I put out my 19th album, Sound View, just this week. And it's well, I guess it's been out for a week and 2 days, so last week. And you can listen to the singles for free on YouTube. Just look up Merlin Mililli Soundview Singles Playlist, and you can listen to the singles for free on YouTube. It's on my Merlin Mililli channel, not to be confused with this channel, which is Mililli Studios channel. And then the album itself is available for download and to buy the CD and or the tape at merlinmililli.com. That's Merlin, like the wizard, and Mililli. Mililli. Like my Lily, but with all eyes. .com. Merlin Mililli is me. The album is Soundview. I also put out an album called Enchanting on October 1st. And that's all my chants. No, that was September 1st. October 1st, I put out an album. This is my third. I put out an album called this year Potty Mouth. And that's an album with all my swears on it. Or all my songs with swears in them on it. Enchanting, which came out September 1st, is my album with all my chants on it. Hey Now Chant, Standing for Your Mother. I don't know if you guys know any of those chants, but Enchanting is available, the whole thing, for free on YouTube, and Potty Mouth is available also, the whole thing, for free on YouTube. But be warned on that one, there's some swears. It's not raunchy like WAP, but it's just swears. They just happen sometimes. And so there's a warning on that one. But that's not my new album. My new album is Soundview. Just came out November 1st. And 2022, in case you're watching a repeat. And Soundview is all about my hometown and where I grew up and the people that are there. So, it's my favorite album so far, Soundview is. So, you should check it out. Or at least the singles. Or buy the album. It's not crazy to go to my website and buy an album. All of them are available there. So, it's Christmas season. Maybe you know a fan of mine and you should buy them one of my albums. The new one, Soundview, is really good. So that's enough of my shameless self-promotion. Today we were to talk about Little Flower's parents, and we did. Not to be confused with my parents in this life. I did not discuss them today. Only Little Flower's parents. My very first life, 10,000 years ago. So now you know where I keep my cloth napkins. Did you see where I pulled it from? It's okay. If you ever need a napkin, you're here at Mililli Studios. You can find one. If you were paying attention and I don't change the place that they are. I might. You never know. When you're not looking, I could totally change the place it's kept. They're kept. There's multiples. So, it ended up being used for sweating more than runny nose, but that's okay. I still outsmarted Murphy and his silly little law by having the tissue and did not have a runny nose for the entirety of the show. So yay, that. Outsmart Murphy and his silly little laws whenever you can. Like taking an umbrella if you think it's going to rain. If you don't take the umbrella, it's totally going to rain on you. If you take the umbrella, it's not going to. Unless you want it to rain. In that case, don't take the umbrella. you're going to get wet. Well, I guess that's it for me today. Yep. I don't have any more. So, have a weird and wonderful weekend. Thanks for starting it by my fireside. A Mililli Studios production.